around with nuclear weapons in videos is fun. There's a visceral joy in blowing things up and a horrifying fascination with things like fireballs, shockwaves, and radiation. And while it does help put our destructive power in perspective, it's not the best way of understanding the real impact of a nuclear explosion. This isn't about city stacks of TNT or about how bright an explosion is. Nuclear weapons are about you. So we've partnered with the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement to explore what would really happen if a nuclear weapon were detonated in a major city today. Not nuclear war, just one explosion. We begin our story in the middle of downtown in a major city. People are going to work, studying for exams, are lost in their thoughts and daily lives. Right here, a nuclear weapon is detonated and time freezes. The first phase of the explosion happens within less than a second. In a millisecond, a ball of plasma hotter than the sun appears and grows in a fireball to more than 2 kilometers across. Within this ball, everyone is just gone. Think of water dripped onto a very hot pan. A sizzle, and then there's nothing. Most buildings, cars, trees, tacky sculptures, and people, all evaporated. First, the flash, an intense tsunami of light, washes over the city in an instant. If you happen to have your head pointed in the direction of the explosion, it renders you blind for a few hours. The heat of this light produces a thermal pulse, so energetic and hot that it just burns everything as far as 13 kilometers from the detonation site. What this means is that everything in an area of 500 square kilometers that is able to burn starts burning. Plastic, wood, fabric, hair, and skin. If you happen to be in reach of the thermal pulse, one moment you're on your way to work, the next moment you're on fire. Now the second phase begins. It happens in a few seconds. Most people will now first notice that something is wrong, but it's already too late for hundreds of thousands. The flash is followed by the shockwave. The heat and radiation of the fireball create a bubble of superheated and supercompressed air around it that's now expanding explosively, faster than the speed of sound, creating winds stronger than hurricanes and tornadoes. Human infrastructure is no match for its power. Most major buildings within a kilometer of the fireball are just ground up down to their base. Only steel-reinforced concrete is able to partially resist the pressure. In the surrounding parks where retirees feed the ducks, trees blackened and smoldering from the heat a second before snap like toothpicks. If you're outside, you get tossed away like a grain of dust in a tornado. The shockwave weakens as it travels outwards, but still, about 175 square kilometers of houses collapse like they're made of cards, trapping tens of thousands of people who didn't have any time to react. Gas stations explode and fires spread throughout the rubble. A mushroom cloud made from the remains of the fireball, dust and ash, rises kilometers into the sky in the next few minutes and casts a dark shadow over the ruined city. This violently pulls in fresh air surrounding the city, destroying more buildings and providing an abundance of oxygen. It depends on the city what happens next. If there's enough fuel, fires may turn into a firestorm that burns the rubble, everybody trapped in it, and people trying to flee the devastation. Up to 21 kilometers from the explosion, people just like you rush to their windows to take pictures of the mushroom cloud, unaware that the shockwave is still coming at them, about to shatter their windows and create a blizzard of sharp glass. The third phase begins in the coming hours and days. We're used to the idea that help will come, no matter the disaster. This time is different. A nuclear explosion is like every natural disaster at once. There are hundreds of thousands or millions of people with serious injuries, lacerations, broken bones, serious burns. In the next few minutes and hours, thousands more will die because of these injuries. Countless people are trapped in collapsed buildings like in earthquakes or blinded by the flash, deaf from the blast wave and unable to flee through streets impassable with rubble and debris. They're terrified, confused and don't know what's happened to them or why. Most likely many hospitals have been leveled along with all the other buildings and most medical professionals are either dead or injured along with everyone else. The survivors lucky enough to have been in metro tunnels or standing in the right place to be unburned and unhurt won't have truly escaped harm yet. Depending on the type of weapon, where it explodes and even the weather, an awful black rain can begin, with radioactive ash and dust descending on the city, covering everything and everyone. The invisible, malicious, silent horror of radiation takes its turn. Every breath carries poison to the lungs of the survivors. Over the coming days, the people who receive the highest doses of radiation exposure will die. There will be no help, not for hours or maybe even days. Civilization doesn't operate when there is a total breakdown of infrastructure. Roads are blocked, train tracks warped, runways cluttered with rubble. No water, no electricity, no communication, no stores to replenish supplies from. Help from surrounding cities will have a hard time entering the disaster zone, and even if they can, the radioactive contamination will make it risky to get too close. After a nuclear attack, you're on your own. So, bit by bit, people emerge from the rubble, on foot, contaminated with radioactive fallout, carrying what little they may have left. They are slow, in pain, traumatized, and they all need food, water, and medical treatment fast. And the damage done by a nuclear weapon doesn't end when the fires burn out and the smoke clears. The hospitals in the neighboring cities are under-equipped for a disaster of this scale, and overwhelmed with tens or hundreds of thousands of patients with serious injuries. In the weeks, months, and years to come, many of those who survived will succumb to cancers like leukemia. The reason no government wants you to think about all this is because there is no serious humanitarian response possible to a nuclear explosion. There's no way to really help the immediate victims of a nuclear attack. This is not a hurricane, wildfire, or earthquake, or nuclear accident. It is all of these things at once, but worse. No nation on Earth is prepared to deal with it. The world has changed in the past few years, with world leaders again explicitly and publicly threatening each other with nuclear weapons. Many experts think the danger of a nuclear strike is higher than it has been in decades. Governments tell their citizens that it's good that we have nuclear weapons, but it's bad when anyone else gets them. That it's somehow necessary to threaten others with mass destruction to keep us safe. But does this make you feel safe? It only takes a small group of people with power to go crazy or rogue, a small misstep or a simple misunderstanding to unleash a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. Exploding stuff in videos is fun. Exploding things in real life, not so much. There is a solution though. Eliminating all nuclear weapons and vowing never to build them again. In 2017, almost 2/3 of all the world's countries, supported by hundreds of civil society organizations and the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement, agreed to prohibit and eliminate nuclear weapons. It's not about who has nuclear weapons and who doesn't. The weapons themselves are the problem. They are deeply immoral and an existential threat to all of us. No matter what country you come from, no matter what
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start off by giving all praises unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Yahweh, who the world ignorantly calls God, and Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Now, what you just watched was a video entitled, What If We Nuke a City? Lord willing, I'll leave a link in the description box down below. I will say I do not own this clip, I just used it for edification's sake. But if you would like to watch the original video, there will be a link in the description box down below. But anyway, the name of this video is going to be Nuclear War and Bible Prophecy. Okay, because a lot of people don't know, especially these Christians. You ask them how the world's going to end, then they'll go on a rant, oh, Antichrist, God's going to come back and, somehow set the world on fire. They don't exactly know how. But they say that, yeah, by some type of fire it's going to happen. But the scriptures clearly explain how this is going to happen in many different places. Okay, the answer is by these ICBM nuclear missiles. Okay, now I want to first start off with the book of Revelation, chapter 17 and verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou saw upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and they shall make her desolate and naked, and they shall eat her flesh, and they shall burn her with fire. Yeah, now the beast with the 7 heads and 10 horns is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and the whore is speaking of the United States of America. Okay, so how are these nations going to burn America? And the answer is by these nuclear weapons. Okay, and I'm going to show in the scriptures evidence to support this. The scriptures say, Isaiah 28:10, for precept must be precept upon precept, here little and there little, to get the understanding of the scriptures. So we're going to go over countless scriptures here in this video, and I use countless loosely, of course, that show without a shadow of a doubt that this is what's going to happen, man. And I show you in these movies. Honorable mention, Planet of the Apes, America's destroyed in a nuclear holocaust. By the way, for those who didn't know, if you have that movie on DVD like I do, you go to the scene selection, the name of the scene where America's destroyed is named The Revelation. Okay, so these Hollywood producers, they know War of the Worlds and an alien invasion came to America. There's so many movies where they show you either the mark of the beast, martial law, famines, these nuclear missiles, and it always takes place in America. 95% of the time, it's always America in these movies. Okay, but anyway, I have right here Isaiah 51 and verse 6. Lift up your eyes to the heavens and look upon the earth beneath, for the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment, and they that dwell in shall die in like manner. My salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished. Yeah, the heavens shall vanish away like smoke. And we're gonna get more that fits that in the book of 2 Peter. Hold on a second. Yeah, you can't see me. It hurts my eyes a little bit, but I like the light on so you guys can see me. So I'll just put on some sunglasses. Anyway, let's see. Peter chapter, let's see. Yeah, 2 Peter chapter 3, and we'll start at verse let's start at verse 10. It says, but the day of Yahweh will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements they shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. All right, so let's read those two verses again. 2 Peter 3 and 10. But the day of Yahweh will come in as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements they shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein, they shall be burned up. All right, so How's that going to happen? And the answer is because, as you see right here, that nuclear blast is what's going to bring this devastation. Okay, we got a mountain of more scriptures to go over to prove this. Okay, now again, you're not going to see the word missile or nuke in the Bible, because when these men saw these futuristic things, they didn't know what they were. Just like when you read Revelation, the 9th chapter, when John saw the locust, right? He called them locusts, but those were actually referring to the German fighter jets of the First World War. All right, but he didn't know what they were. Which indeed, if you look up an image of those jets they use in that war, they do look like some type of insect. If when they're up in the air, looking up at them, they indeed look like some type of flying creature. All right, especially to somebody who lived back in that time when it wasn't common to see those kind of things. Let's see, Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 16. Behold, I have created the smith that blows the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument of his work, and I have created the waster to destroy. Yeah, the Lord have created these wasters to destroy, man. All right, the Lord is the one who gave this man his power that he has. All right, the Lord is the one who gave these nations this ability. I want to get the book of Zechariah. Chapter 14 and verse 12. This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 14 and verse 12. It says, "And this shall be the plague wherein the Lord will smite all the people who have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away as they stand upon their feet. Their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away within their mouths." Let's read that again. Zechariah chapter 14 verse 12. Says, "And this shall be the plague wherein the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet. Their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away within their mouths." How is that going to happen? And the answer is that by these nuclear weapons. This is what's going to bring this to pass, man. Okay, these nuclear weapons are what is how the end's going to come. These weapons will be the end of the world, man. Okay, this is what Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is going to have these nations use, as I showed you in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, where the beast, which is NATO, will turn against the whore, which is America. It says, "And they shall burn her." Now, how does a nation burn a nation today? Obviously, it's by these nuclear missiles, which actually the prophet John also saw the nuclear missiles. Now, again, you're not going to see the word missile in the scriptures, because they didn't have those words back then. Okay, but after we read the description he gives of them, you can clearly match them up with a ICBM nuclear missile. The book of Revelation, chapter 9 and verse 15. "And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. And I heard the number of them, unless I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth and brimstone. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of a lion, and out of their mouths issued fire, smoke, and brimstone. By these 3 was the third part of men killed, by the fire, by the smoke, and by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails. For their tails were like unto serpents, and they had heads, and with them they do hurt." Yeah, now the part of the missile that explodes is a part called the warheads. Okay, a tail like a serpent. When a missile takes off in flight, it leaves a trail of smoke behind it. That after a certain amount of time starts becoming wavy like a snake. Okay, so that's the tail. Actually, let's go up and break it down. "Number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. I heard the number of them, unless I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone." Yeah, now again, the horses, the word horse just means horsepower. You got a term that means horsepower. It just basically means a very powerful thing. So these things that he saw were actually the ICBM nuclear missiles that are going to be used in this upcoming world war. but he had to describe it the way he did because he didn't know what it was. There's many things as well, like, even in the Apocrypha, and in the Bible it mentions, like for a good example would be the book of what is it, Job, I believe it's 20th chapter. It says he shall flee from the iron weapon, but the bow of steel will strike him through. And there's another verse that says that these arrows shall begin to be shot to the ends of the world. Matter of fact, I think that might be in the book of 2nd Ezra, 16th chapter. Let me see if I can get that real quick. Yeah, the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 16, and verse 13. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shoots are sharp, and they shall not miss, when they begin to be shot to the ends of the world. Yeah, now those arrows are talking about those missiles. Now here's a fun fact. In the military, I believe it's for they call a stolen missile, they call it a broken arrow. And you can look it up. Just look up a military a broken arrow, and then you should get some information about it. But even they call them arrows. Okay, so as I quoted earlier, the scriptures tell you about arrows being shot to the ends of the world. Now, what arrow can be shot to the end of the world? And a physical wooden arrow can only be shot, maybe 1,000 feet or so, if that, of course, if that. I have a friend that has a bow and arrow, so I might go ahead and ask him. But and missile can literally travel across the world, man. Okay, in a matter of just a couple minutes. Okay, so that's what it's talking about. But anyway, says the heads of the horses as the head of a lion, and out of their mouths issues fire, smoke, and brimstone. Yeah, out of them when they explode, it issues fire, smoke, and brimstone. Okay, now when you read in the scriptures later on, it says that the beast and the false prophet, they were taken and cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone. Now that brimstone and lake of fire is what's these missiles here, or these horses, as he calls it. That's what they're gonna make. Which that lake of fire is referring to America, right after the Third World War. But these three was the third part of man killed by the fire, by the smoke, and by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails. For their tails like unto serpents, and they had heads, and with them they do hurt. Now, the tail, once again, is the smoke trail behind it. The power in the tails, at the front of the tails, which, would be the propeller, you have fire coming out of it. And then, let's read verse 18 again. By these three was the third part of men killed, by the fire, and by the smoke, and by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths. Yeah, and that's what's going to kill people. If you don't die by the fire, you're going to die from by the smoke, okay? And then by the brimstone, okay? And as we've seen here with these nukes, you have fallout, okay, which will kill many people, okay? So these things here, man, with all this information that was brought out, which there's more information that we could get, but this is a plain case, man. This is plain and clear that this is what it's talking about, man. Okay, this is clearly what the scriptures are talking about. Okay, this is how the world's going to end. Okay, this is going to be the end of the world here, man. Okay, let me see. Okay, bear with me. Bear with me a second. Okay. The book of Amos, chapter 5 and verse 18, it says, Woe unto you that desire the day of Yahweh. To what end is it for you? For the day of Yahweh is darkness and not light. For if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him, or went into the house and leaned his hand upon the wall and a serpent bit him, should not the day of the Lord be darkness and not light? Even very dark and no brightness in it. Now why would there be no brightness in it? Because the sun is going to be darkened by that smoke, okay? By that smoke that's going to be let out from that from those missiles. And also when you read in the scriptures, there's going to be so much smoke that you're going to be able to look across the sea and from ships, and you're going to be able to see the smoke coming up. And it even tells you that here. Let me go ahead and get that real quick. Right. Revelation 18:8. Therefore shall her plague come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is Yahweh who judges her. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her. They shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. Wait a second. When they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, the mighty city, for 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buys their merchandise any more. Let me see. There's also mentions another part. Verse 15, For the merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing. Yeah, and why is that? Because, again, that smoke, you're going to be able to see that smoke coming up from America when this takes place. Okay, which, again, that smoke's going to be those missiles. Okay? So pretty much this video that you watched, this video within a video that you watched, which again, if you want to watch the whole thing, because I cut it a little bit short, and I played it faster, so if you want to watch it slower to get a deeper breakdown of it, you can find a link in the description box. I recommend you watch it. But yeah, pretty much that proves it, man. Okay, according to the scriptures, that's how the world's going to end. Okay, but anyway, with that being said, I want to give all praise to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, and I'm going to say shalom.